live now. I'm going live right now.
Superstition. Riding
I do
on
prefer
the
searching. I did wonder before why we didn't just do this in Zoom instead of trying to do it in Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think we are live.
Yeah, we are.
How do you know?
Because I can see us on the screen there.
Okay,
Screen.
so I
Which
think
I'm not
we just ignore that.
Yeah. I'm not going to hit play, but I mean, hopefully people will comment.
Yes. So, so if you are joining us tonight for Build a Website in 10 Easy-ish Steps, and I added the ish halfway through, then please just give us a like or a comment so that we know that you're watching and that you can hear us. Yay, we've got Geraldine saying hi.
Brilliant.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll give it just a minute or two, just in case anyone else is going to dive in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will get started. What do you think?
I think that's a good idea.
We've just been trying to
play
put
music.
some intro music on, but it was very unsuccessful. So Neil was singing Superstition by Stevie Wonder, which was a great version, I have to say.
You're so not. So not.
Oh dear. Okay. So where should we start?
It's the presentation that you prepared.
Oh yeah.
Should we start there?
Should we do that? Should we start?
That'd be. I mean, that's a good place to start because at least. Oh, there you go. Somebody else has joined us.
Awesome. It's a good place to start because what?
Because you've prepared it for tonight.
Yes, that's true.
It would, if we didn't use it, then that'd be a waste.
It would be a waste of at least half an hour of my time. Right. Okay. I'm just trying to find the right screen to share, and hopefully you can see how to build a website in 10 easy-ish steps with a purplish graphic of screens and lights and all types of different electronic things.
Yep, that's what I can see.
Awesome, that's good. So just to kind of give you a little background really, without going into introductions, which we'll do in a sec, I wanted to do something to start a little community around building websites, kind of getting over the fear of techie stuff, because I see so many questions in groups around I want to do this but I don't know how, I'm a complete technophobe, I don't know how to do it, and I do know how to do it, and I've been doing it for 20 years or so, and so as my friend Neil. So I've conned him into setting up this little community and seeing where it goes from here. So you are our guinea pigs. This is a complete trial, we're in beta, as we would say if we were launching if we were launching an enterprise program.
Yeah, we're just going to see how it goes.
Yeah, very much so. So what we're going to do is talk about the things that we're going to say, obviously, and then and as we go through, if you've got any questions and I can work out how to look at the questions while I'm talking, we'll answer them. And if we can't do that, we'll have some pauses so that we can catch up with the questions, but there will be an opportunity for questions as we go along. Okay. So my name's Mandy. I run a private practice called Soulful Psychotherapy, and I am a psychotherapist working in the UK and trained in Canada. I'm also a celebrant, so I do funerals and weddings and baby namings and all different types of things. and because of my background, which is 20 years in IT, I still kind of dabble in websites, digital marketing, and particularly enjoy helping small businesses to get online and to kind of help them get rid of the barriers to doing that. Personally, I'm a mum. I've got a 14-year-old daughter, and you might hear doors slamming in the background. I also have 2 very noisy Jack Russells. And because we've got lots of fireworks going off tonight, you might hear them too. So, hello.
So this is a terrible bit where I get to talk about me. So my name's Neil Morin. I'm the director of DefNet Media. I've known Mandy for maybe about 10 years now, probably. And we've worked on various different projects together. So we've done, I produce something in Liverpool called Ignite Liverpool, which is a kind of, it's like a karaoke, it's like a karaoke kind of event, but it's a kind of quite geeky kind of karaoke event. And Mandy and I work together on that. And I've done lots of kind of...
There's no singing involved at all?
No, unless... Yeah, no, we don't do singing. So we do, we've done that together and worked on various different projects together. So I run an organization called DefNet Media, and what we do is we help small businesses get online, just kind of, how to build up their websites, how to build their digital presence. And I do workshops with various different, for various different organizations, just for small businesses, helping them, just kind of help them get the skills and just helping them think about what is it they're looking to achieve online. And so, yeah, and so that's what I do really.
Neil's nicknamed the Geek Morin, because when we do events, I'm generally schmoozing somewhere, looking after the speakers, or maybe comparing, and Neil's making sure the live stream's working, the social media channels are sorted, and very much that's kind of our comfort zones, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, I've got my head in the technology, and I'm not doing any of this kind of talking to people. No, I don't do that.
No. Okay, so our intention here is, and intentions are always good, is that we will go live at 7:30 every Wednesday. We will try and talk about one topic, although because we're covering a lot, that's bound to fluctuate a little bit. We will take questions at certain points, and we're going to offer homework for you to do. As well as that, we will both be present in the group to contribute to your questions as we go along. Now, I know Neil has been quiet thus far, although I do expect he might jump in a little bit more. It's just he's a little bit shy sometimes. So our hope for this really, and if you're able to, I'd like it if you could share in the chat as well what your hope for this little kind of course is. But our hope is that we can give you all of the puzzle pieces that you need in order to have a website launched by January. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it will take half an hour a week. It might take more of your time than that. But we've got enough knowledge between the two of us to get you to that position. Wouldn't you agree, Neil?
Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah, and I mean, it is one of those things where you kind of go, okay, I'm looking to, I need to put a website together. How is it I'm going to do it? And people just go, I just don't know. And they throw their hands up. And it's kind of like, okay, it just needs to be broken down into simple steps. And once you start breaking it down into simple steps, it's a lot easier then to just start working through it so that you can get to the end point that you're looking to get to, but also to get to an end point, which is actually where you want to be and not somewhere that I've just done this in the hope, I've done this in the hope. you're actually somewhere where it's actually going to achieve something for you. Yeah, that's what we're looking for, is we want to help you get to the point that's good.
Yeah, and it's worth saying as well that the thing with a website or any kind of digital presence is it's never done, it's never finished. And so, you know, hopefully you'll have something by the end of January. And I remember building my first website 20 years ago, and oh my God, I dread to think now. It had flashing neon, all kinds of horrible things on it that I would deem it horrible now. But it's a learning curve and it's a process. And so if we can get you to a point of having a starting point, having a bit more knowledge, having a bit more confidence about how you approach it, being able to ask the right questions of people that you might want to go into business with around it, do you know what I mean? Then we'll have achieved our objective, I think.
Yeah, because it can be a really daunting process. And it's, you know, what we're trying to do is just kind of break it down, just make it simpler. Yeah, there are some bits which are a bit complicated, but they're only complicated if you think about them, you know, like that. But, you know, we can make that, you know, make it an awful lot easier.
Yeah. So what we're asking from you, and I have to say I'm very pleased with my slides, very pleased with myself, is that we'd like you to be present, hence the little gift there. We'd like you to be present. And that doesn't mean you have to be at the live. You can watch it whenever you want to.
Yeah.
But you kind of make a bit of a commitment to doing this, because without that, nothing's going to happen. Without you putting the work in, nothing's going to happen. And the other thing to say is there are no silly questions. You know, believe me, I had every question under the sun when working with people around web stuff. And if you don't know the answer to it, it's not silly. And everyone else in the room is probably thinking of that same question as well. So please don't hesitate to put things in the group. If you're really worried about seeming silly, private message us, and we'll kind of put that to bed, because we want to just be as open and transparent as we can in terms of like I say, giving you the knowledge that you need.
Yeah, because this isn't hard, but again, it's just that kind of breaking it down into steps and just working through those steps, and then you will have something at the end of it.
Yes. So, okay, Neil, can you see the chat? Because I can't see anything apart from.
Yep, I can see lots of highs from Claire, Geraldine, Catherine, and Sadia.
Awesome. Any questions so far?
No questions so far.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll move on to what we're going to do, and then we'll move on to kind of the first bit of first chunk of content, if you like. So the plan is that during November, and I have to check because I put 5 weeks in November and I'm not actually sure there is 5 weeks, so we might need to jiggle that a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that in November we focus on marketing. So we focus on who's your audience, what's your communication strategy, general marketing around brands and themes and different things, what type of websites there are and what you need, and then into kind of gathering and grading content, because all of these things are the kind of foundations of we can jump straight into the technology, but actually without all of this is going to help us when we decide what technology we want to use and how we want to use it.
Yeah, very much so. It is that kind of, if you don't know what you don't know who your audience is, or you don't know what kind of a website you're after, or you haven't got any content, which is normally the process. So I haven't got any content. What am I going to? So you have to start, thinking about who your audience is, and then generating content that is suitable for that particular audience. And again, that kind of communication strategy, how you're building that communication strategy around the work that you're doing in order to promote your business.
And I want to say as well, like, when you look at any of these words like communication strategy, that might sound really out there, like, oh my God, what's a communication strategy? We're going to break it down. We're going to tell you step by step what it is. It's an A4 piece of paper. It's nothing. It's not a great big policy or anything like that, but there will be some key things in it. And so week by week, we'll drop these in, and they will all, as the web does, they will all start linking to each other to give you a really good overview. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Geraldine's dropped a question into the in there, and she says, "What if you are new like me and are not 100% sure who your audience is?"
Well, we've got some questions that will help you work that out. So today's kind of piece of work is around audience. And so once we finish this overview, we're going to ask you to think about some questions, and that will help you to determine who your audience is. And we'll talk about also why it's important to start narrowing that down so that you're not trying to write content for everybody in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
Do you want to do December?
Yep. So been through what we're going to be covering in November. In December, fingers crossed, there are enough Wednesdays, and they are suitable Wednesdays. But we're going to be looking at choosing a platform. What kind of website kind of platform will you be using for your website? Search engine optimization, looking at kind of what keywords you might be using and how you can use them, and the kind of words that you should be using within your content. Channels and listings. So channels, Mandy?
So this is so the marketing channels that you will use. So things like, Instagram or Facebook or Google My Business or Yale.com or Counseling Directory. So kind of just trying to give you ideas about the different channels that you can use to reach your target audience, and which ones you want to invest your time in, which ones are going to be worth it.
Yeah, and how easy it is to actually get listed in some of them. So the kind of Google My Business one is great because it's nice and cheap. Well, it's free, and it's kind of dead easy to do. So, and it's a great way of getting yourself on the map. See what I did there?
Yes, on the map.
On the map.
And then we'll round off December with everything else. What I want to say is that in each of these things, in each of these kind of topics, we could disappear down a rabbit hole. Like there's so much we could tell you, but we don't want to do that. We haven't got time to do that for a start, and we don't want to overwhelm you either. So in choosing a platform, for example, we'll probably pick 3 of the most popular ones. So it may be that we look at WordPress versus Wix versus, I don't know, Squarespace, or getting a developer to do it for you, and maybe look at the pros and cons of that. We can't go through all of them, but we can kind of give our opinion on what works for us, what works generally. The same with channels and listings. We're going to try and give you what's best value, what's the quick and dirty way of getting you online, if you like. Do you know what I mean? And with all of them, you are obviously free to go and do your own major research with them. But there's definitely a lot of information that we'll try and give you enough to get you going without losing ourselves in the process. Okay. So the way we kind of looked at it is that the final 2 sessions, which will kind of be early January, will be used to kind of mop anything up. So to answer questions, maybe to help troubleshoot issues that you might have got, and we'll aim to get you going live for a January launch date. And the reason we kind of picked this time of year is that we thought usually, you might, disagree, but usually people have time over Christmas and New Year. I know we're going into a lockdown as well. I know people have got lots of conflicting priorities at the moment, but we were kind of hoping that maybe we can start to wrap things up around Christmas time. But it's going to be different for everybody. So, that's the plan, and plans can change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we want to just take a little pause there and see if we've got any questions.
Are you talking about your dogs again?
Can you hear them? Pause.
Yeah. Yeah, really sorry. I'm sorry.
Neil is the king of bad puns.
I'll go. Yep, no more questions.
Okay.
No more questions so far.
Okay. So I think I've heard from some of you around, whether you're brand new, whether you've already got a website, whether you've got, 10 years experience in being a therapist or not. I think everyone is in different places, but I think that's what makes this really interesting, actually, because hopefully it's new in some way to all of you, and that brings with it a challenge. So if there's no questions, we'll crack on. And we'll talk about
finding your audience.
Yay! Do you want to start?
No.
Okay. So when we talk about finding your audience, it can be kind of an overwhelming question, like, how am I supposed to know who my audience is? And the thing is, we don't know until we start to look at it and to dive into that. But there's a reason why it's important. Because if you can imagine, for example, that you've got a marketing budget of 500 quid, and you were going to decide, and we're not going to touch ads in this program, but if you were going to decide to do some Facebook ads or Google ads or take out an advert in the local paper, if you were trying to reach everybody, then there's a likelihood that you will reach nobody at all. And so what we're trying to do when we're looking at finding our audience is to almost use that magnifying glass and say, well, who is it that is going to have pain points that match my services? Who is it that, what kind of person am I looking for? Who's my ideal client? And sometimes people get scared when you do that, because you go, oh, well, I don't want to niche down, or I don't want to, limit my choices here. But unless we know who our audience is, we can't start to write for them. We can't start to develop content for them. And there's lots of evidence of why it's important for us to do that. So how we start when we talk about our audience is the journalists' W's, the who, why, what, where, and when, and usually how as well. And so, Neil, I wonder if you can give me an example of your audience.
An example of my audience. Okay, an example of my audience would be small to medium-sized enterprises, mostly voluntary and charity sector organisations. I'd say that they are probably, the organisations themselves, probably a turnover is less than 200,000 per annum.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Mostly, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, it's quite difficult. I wouldn't be able to say. Mostly women. Yeah, it's.
So
yeah.
what kind of role in that organisation would you?
Sometimes it's they are the they'd be the director of their organisation. So it would be, they're the director, they're the kind of, do everything. And they would, they would approach me or be given my name, and then they'd get in touch. But yeah, they're normally, quite small organisations, and that don't necessarily have an awful lot of spare cash in order to be able to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Okay. And so to give you, because I wear a few hats in terms of business, I have a few different audiences. So as a therapist, my audience is women who are 25 to 45. They may or may not have children. The pain points are that they're struggling, they're kind of feeling overwhelmed with what's going on in their life, and they're trying to create time for themselves, time for them to be themselves. I think we're looking at kind of a 30 to 50 grand income, so that it's enough to afford private practice. They might have already gone to the GP and be on a waiting list, but that waiting list is too long. On the other hand, from my celebrant's point of view, I'd be looking for brides generally, because grooms don't tend to book things. It's brides who do the planning. So I'd be looking for someone who's going to get married in the next 2 years. So someone who's engaged but not yet married. I'd also be looking at hotel owners and venue owners and things like that. And so you can see, even with both of those, that they're very different people. I might be looking for Sarah Jane, who's a bride getting married. She wants a different type of ceremony. She's non-religious, so she doesn't want the big church thing. She wants something quite quirky and unique.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, it might be Jenny, who's struggling with feeling overwhelmed with her mental health and just wants to feel better, wants to feel normal. So I hope those kind of few examples give you a bit of an idea. And the thing is, you can get really creative here. It really helps to get a picture of the personal people that you're trying to target in your mind's eye. And this will all become clear as we kind of go through the program. So
you gave Sarah Jane. Yeah, so you've given your typical audience for your celebrants activity kind of there's a name of somebody, Sarah Jane. It's going to really helps you kind of identify who they are. Would Sarah Jane like this? Would she like that?
And also down to the point of, is Sarah Jane on Instagram? What kind of, who does she follow on Insta? Does she follow Mrs. Hinch? Or you can get down to that level of detail and say, then you can start to use photography, and you can start to use language that really draws into that person's behaviours, their personality, what they're passionate about, and it starts to make a match between your ideal customer and what you want to do in terms of your services. And that's what it's all about, really, is matching it up. So at this point, we're going to ask you to have a little think. And hopefully you've got a bit of pen and paper, or you can just put it in chat if you want to. And so there's 6 questions that I'd like you to think about. So who are they? And usually when we start, it's quite broad. Who are they? How old are they? Is it important what gender they are? Before COVID, geographical location might have been important, because if you were seeing people in an office environment, you might think, well, 20 miles away from where I live. Now, with a lot of people working online, that might be less important. Are they married? Are they not? There's a really successful lady who calls herself the divorce coach. So her ideal client is people who are getting divorced. And do they need a particular income? Are you looking for someone at a particular level? The next thing to think about really is what's their struggle? You know, is it childcare? Is it anxiety? Is it addiction? Is it a lack of time? You know, whatever. I've just put those down as random examples. In Neil's case, it could be small business, needs to get online, hasn't got much money. That's the pain point. You know, my bride, for example, the struggle would be they don't want a bog standard wedding that everybody else has. They want something different.
Sarah Jane's like that though, isn't she?
She is a bit like that, yeah. Bit unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as you start to answer these questions, hopefully you start to get a bit of a picture of who this audience is. And this isn't like a 5-minute exercise. What we're going to ask you to do is to kind of take this homework away and look at it over the next week or so. Because it might be you have a particular client already in mind, somebody you enjoy working with, where you can kind of ask yourself these questions in relation to them. You know, obviously confidentiality, anonymizing everything, but you know, where do they spend their time? Is it online? Is it on Facebook or Insta or Twitter or Snapchat, TikTok, or any of the social channels? Is it in the library? Are they always at work? You know, do you want to target workaholics?
I mean, that's the other thing. It's going to, okay, we're talking about mostly looking at kind of, you know, digital, you know, looking at your website, etc., etc. But you know, if you've got somebody that's in the library and doesn't spend an awful lot on a lot of time online, how is it you can then reach them? And it may be, okay, you go for something which is a website which is quite simple, but you put more of an effort into actually producing leaflets or flyers, and then distributing them around.
Yeah, the business cards and everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing which is. This is not rocket science.
No. We don't work for NASA.
No.
And I suppose the best marketing is a mix of all of them. So the next few questions, and I realise I'm throwing a lot at you, and I will follow this up. So after the session tonight, there'll be a Facebook post with homework in, and then I will email you. So if I don't have your email, please let me have it. But I will email you with this homework as well, so that you can have the questions in front of you and maybe put some time aside to think about them. So what can you offer them? And by this, I mean, is it really clear what services you offer? So, you know, I might say I'm a therapist. And someone say, well, what kind of therapist? What kind of therapy do you do? Is it important about the modality that it's, I don't know, transpersonal or Gestalt or what have you? I think
I'm lost.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Well, therapists get really hung up on all of this stuff, but actually clients are not bothered by it at all. They just want somebody that they connect with. You know what I mean? And so, you know, are you clear about your offer? What can you do for them in terms of their problem? And when do they need your services? So is it immediate, or have you got time to build a relationship with them? And this is, you know, this question particularly helps with the development of websites and things like that. So, you know, is somebody wanting to make a phone call today or fill in a form on a website today and have an appointment within 24, 48 hours?
Yeah.
Or actually, are they looking at, you know, spending a bit more with you, maybe doing a workshop? I don't know. For me, the bride thing comes in, you know, usually we've got 2 years. Somebody comes to me, they're getting married in 2023, and we start to build the relationship. We start to get to know each other, and we work together until that point. And it's really interesting because basic marketing is all about trust. You know, can this customer, this client, trust you to deliver what you say you're going to deliver? And so whether you're buying a £50 therapy session or a £250 website or a £250,000 house, the principles are all the same. Can they trust you to do what they need to do? And then finally, how can you help them reach their goals? So if their goal is to feel better, or the goal is to have a unique ceremony, or the goal is to get online, how can you help them do that? And the answers to all of these questions not only help you to build the audience, but they feed into the rest of what we'll be doing over the next couple of months. Does that make sense?
It does to me, man.
Well, I know it does to you. So it's over to you now. I'm going to drop the screen so I can have a look at and interact on the chat, or if anybody wants to jump on. And like I say, this homework, which is to develop your ideal client, customer audience, whatever you want to call it. As I say, it'll be posted on the Facebook group, and I'll send it out by email as well. Okay. So I'm going to stop the share.
Brilliant.
I'm going to get rid of this and have a look at this. Okay, so I'm just having a look at the chat. I bought a domain, had a go at the start of building mine, but I get lost. What should I be doing first? Okay, Josie, yeah. Catherine says, yes, that's me. I don't know what she said that to, because when you look back at the comments. Are there any further questions at this point?
I think they're all busy writing down the homework.
Do you think so?
Yeah. Thinking about that. Who are the audience? With their who, what, where, when, why, how, and well, there we go, Karen.
Mm. Mm.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant, Karen. And Claire's happy to, yeah, go on.
Awesome, Claire's happy to go, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Brilliant, Claire.
Yeah, Karen, I think that is a struggle that a lot of people have, is that, you know, I don't want a niche, or I don't want to pick, and I think the interesting thing for me is I'm a person who gets bored quite easily, as you might be able to tell from the number of jobs that I've got. is that I can define my audience, who I think it is today, and then I might revisit that exercise in 6 months or 12 months time and go, oh, actually, so with my therapy, for example, I thought my niche was going to be around bereavement, and as I've got more experience as a therapist, actually what I love working with is trauma and PTSD and complex PTSD. So it's almost like I started with bereavement, but and bereavement is part of trauma anyway. So it's always going to kind of be merging, you know. So, you know, the audience that you pick today, that doesn't have to stay that way forever. But it is a case of saying, well, okay, we do need to, you know, I don't know whether I mentioned this before or I've dreamt it, but, you know, I was saying, if you had a £500 budget and you wanted to spend it on Facebook or Google and say, this is my audience, this is who I'm going to market, the £500 would go nowhere, because you would market to so many people, and it just wouldn't hit the right ones at all. Whereas if you said, okay, it's women, or it's not, it's men, it's these are what they like to do, these are the places they're going to be, then actually you would spend that £500 hitting less people, but hitting the right people that needed to see it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. Scattergun approach. It's a good way of putting it. Yeah. And it's always a work in progress. It's never done. Which is what keeps it interesting for me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was that you were talking earlier, Mandy, about if you had £500 and you spent it all on Facebook adverts, and it's kind of, you kind of go, you would never do that. You would, when Facebook allows you to do adverts, it does go, okay, well, what area, what geographic area, what kind of age group, what are their interests, and it's that kind of Sarah Jane who's coming along to you for weddings. It's kind of like, what's she about, and it's your narrow.
Yes. Okay, so I think we're just about done. Have you got anything to add, Neil?
No, Mandy. I know my place.
I don't know what you mean. Okay.
Brilliant, Karen. Good.
Absolutely, yeah. And the other thing with that, Karen, as well, is, certainly I've in the past have put funerals and weddings on one website.
Yeah.
And then as I've refined it, I've completely separated them, because the person who's looking for me to do a celebration of life is not looking for me to do a wedding. They're two completely different audience groups. And so sometimes the services can, they fit together. So if you're doing therapy and yoga or Pilates or something around well-being, then absolutely you can have them all together. But sometimes they're too different. They do need to be separated out. Yeah. Thank you for that, Geraldine. I'm glad we've made you think. I like it when we make people think. And hopefully you kind of got to know us a little bit now. We're looking forward to getting to know you a bit more, and please ask away. If you've got any questions, do get in touch, and we'll do our best.
Brilliant. And you're going to wrap it up with homework later?
Yeah, there's a scheduled post which will come out in 3 minutes on the group with the homework. And what I'll do is follow that up with an email with all the questions in as well. So if you don't get an email from me, just drop your email in a private message, and I'll make sure you're on our list. Okay. So thanks for coming, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you next week. Bye. I don't know where the end button is.
You need to stop streaming it to Facebook.
I do.